All right, the boys, we're down here in Playa del Carmen. We got some uncommon boys with us today. We got Keegan Smith, the legend, Topp out here. So we're gonna talk about defining freedom, financial freedom, location freedom, bunch of stuff. So kick it with us today. I don't know Jay too well, but we're gonna learn a little bit about him, learn more about Keegan, what they got going on. So stick around. So let me first dive to you, Jay.
Yeah.
Where you're from Australia too?
Yeah.
Okay.
The Gold Coast.
The Gold Coast. All right, so I'm the American inside of some Australian meat out here. So tell me a little bit about your history, man. How do you get here?
Yeah, amazing. Long story, but
All right.
Yeah, in short, I run like an online business marketing for online education businesses.
Mm-hmm.
Dropped out of high school when I was like 16, started traveling when I was 17, and I've spent most of the time since then traveling the world, 63 countries, scaling online education businesses, a couple of 7-figure, a bunch of 6 figures, and
what niche is it?
Like all online education.
Just e-learning.
Health,
okay.
Wealth, relationships.
Okay. Was it marketing like your products, or were you doing like affiliate stuff?
So partnering with coaches who have their own courses, and then taking responsibility for like the client acquisition part.
Okay.
And
just doing it all online, yeah?
Yeah, doing it all online, and then connected with Keegs a couple of years ago.
He's got 10 years of experience. He's 24.
24, yeah. You started at 14, huh?
Yeah. So I started. My parents had a business. So that was my start, helping them out in their business.
What type of business were they in?
They originally had. My father was a fighter, so they had boxing gyms.
Okay. Yeah.
They taught white guys how to have their first fight, 10 weeks.
Oh, okay.
From zero to their first fight at the casino in front of 700-800 people.
Were they doing that before you started in the entrepreneurship stuff?
Yeah, they started that when I was like 9 years old or something.
Okay.
But I started getting into marketing, helping out in my early teens. And
so they actually had like a good system already in place of like, all right, we know people that want to go from X to Y.
Yeah.
But how can we scale it, right?
For sure. And I think after Dad's career, he was just teaching people how to box because that's what he knew. That's what he loved.
Mm-hmm.
And then, there's a lot of guys who had always wanted to have
that fight,
first fight. And so he started just training them like fighters. And then they started asking to have fights. So.
That's actually really interesting. So, I think a lot of people just go purely into, the generalization, I'm just going to be, a fighting coach. And, that's it. Yeah. What I think separated him probably was no, I'm actually going to teach people specifically how to get their first fight. So even though it's the same kind of thing, but there's actually a specific objective that we can work towards, and that's when you can really scale it, I think, because people know there's an objective outcome.
Biggest market is always at the bottom when it started.
Yeah.
It's the broadest market. The market for guys who want to go pro, they got no money. There's not many of them. Not many of them are going to make it. You can do it as well, but it's pretty much the same in every field. The top guys there's nowhere near as big a group, but more and more, it probably got in early as well. There's more and more people wanting to have their first fight.
There's quite a few people doing it right now, but when they started, it was early days. And I think he discovered the reason these guys wanted to have a fight, like a business owner or a construction worker or an office worker, it had nothing to do really with boxing, but he wanted to have a test.
100%.
So
those people are actually willing to pay, versus somebody that's actually trying to go pro, have to be their life. It's no, a lot of men that maybe went on this path of whatever career, there's something missing. All right, I am a savage at heart. I need to go test myself a little bit. And that's interesting. I probably would have done it, in my early 30s or something. All right, I'm a little lost. I need to have a fight.
Get surrounded by a bunch of good guys, common goal.
For sure.
So, it's a cool environment.
Jay's still trying to make me do it.
Are
you going to do, I know you practice a lot more than I do.
Set you guys up, have a fight. You guys
straight after the podcast.
I know, we're fighting. I like a light spar here and there, I like my brain too much. I really do. I'm and also I know if I'm swinging, I could hurt somebody. I don't want to hurt anybody. And also if I know I have to go 100, then that means somebody else has to go 100 at me, and I don't really want to take that on. But okay, we want to go 50, 60. Okay, that's good. Test yourself out a little bit. I'll go 100 on the bag. The bag's got no feelings. But
there's a lot to be learned even at 50, 60%. I think that's a good thing as well. It's just Jay punched me in the head a couple of times when we were in Montenegro. It was great.
Yeah, yeah.
I hadn't been punched in the head for such a long time. We're wearing 16 ounces. He's not trying to kill me.
Yeah.
He's not going to go like
one's gonna
boom,
get
boom, boom,
hurt,
20
yeah.
shots in a row. It's just like giving you a feel for it. I think it's a great thing to feel what it's like.
Feel the pressure of another guy and just like, okay.
Controlling your emotions, controlling your breathing, controlling your temper, like all that stuff is gold. And whether you take it to the extreme or not.
And and also knowing like, okay, I'm not gonna die in this moment, so like you don't have to like freeze up. You're like, okay, if I get hit, it's like it wasn't the end of the world, you know. Like we were down in Colombia, we spar every Monday when we were down there, and there was a bigger guy, he was like 6'3", you know, good, and he caught me real good on my nose, just started gushing, you know. I'm like, all right, well, it's good. It's good to feel, you know. Yeah. So I didn't die, so I'm like, all right.
Yeah. I think for sure, and I think the fight is important, you know. Not
the actual
has to be a fighter, but I think like how like it's a special opportunity to have a time and a place where you get an opportunity to let absolutely everything out, the most savage, dangerous parts of you. For men, there's no space in society where we're allowed to express that part, but there's like this one space where you can let it all out and really go to the depths of yourself. And not to say that I think at least once, like I think as a symbolically it's just like the most incredible experience.
All right.
And I'd encourage every man to do it at least once. Once.
I know. I've been on the edge about it for sure.
Yeah. Well, you get like the 3 2-minute rounds and headgear and all that stuff.
Yeah, that's
like,
plenty.
Yeah. I mean, we could do that.
You get there's different degrees of it versus little gloves and.
Yeah. No, it's not bare knuckle, but we.
no bare knuckle. All right. The first one, I'm just jumping straight in against Mike Perry and it's just bare knuckle. Yeah. I have to like cut some weight. What'd you do it at? What weight were you at?
Oh, I've fought from. At the moment, I'm like, I had my last fight like 71.
Okay.
It was just these amateur fights, so I'm the same day weigh-in.
So you weren't even like trying to cut anything, that's just kind of like your natural weight?
Like, just trying to be lean,
somewhat lean,
I'm not trying to kill myself.
You don't dehydrate yourself like the day before, like that?
Yeah, it's different with, we don't have a 36-hour weigh-in with like a 90-minute weigh-in, so it's pretty... Yeah,
you don't have too much time to rehydrate then, So you don't want to come in too low. Yeah, good. Well, you guys just put on an event down here with 11 guys talking about a lot of the uncommon ways of living. You talk specifically a lot about freedom, defining freedom. What did a lot of the consensus kind of come to?
It was a different event to what I've run in the past. I just became a father again for the 3rd time. And
congratulations.
Thank you. My mentor, the guy who's changed my life the most, said you have to read this book called Magical Child before the child was born. He told me a few weeks before. I got it maybe 2 weeks before my boy was born. I'm reading this book. And then the day that my boy comes, it was a tough day. We had a home birth and it was like a rough experience. My wife was getting to the edge. The boy was at the edge. And it gave me a really different perspective on life. Like it's the first 2 children kind of came easily in a way. And this one being a bigger journey really impacted the way I'm thinking about his life, but also men in general, like my journey in general, mentoring. So this camp was a bit of a flow-on of that. It's always, the events are always impacted by what's going on in my life at the time. And this one was a lot less intense. My background's rugby. In rugby league, like you got to win or you don't get to be in the job. And like there's a strong masculine energy, competitive energy, where I just let things flow a lot more at this one. And we still had lots of new athletic bests, guys hitting their first handstand push-ups and breaking through on movements and getting super sore, training hard, but it was just a different energy and a different tone. And yeah, honestly, guys were sharing stuff they never shared, and I never thought I'd actually have an event like that. And it's not like everyone with Kleenex and just sitting around, cry party, but there's a part of life that I was probably pretty close to, of really enjoying brotherhood, enjoying the connection with people, and then we went deeper on that, and that was something really special. So we posed the question, because everyone's thinking geographical freedom, time freedom, money freedom, like this is a common conversation now. The geographical freedom wasn't really on the radar. Like 10 years ago, I said it to one of my buddies who was quite entrepreneurial. I was like, oh, geographical, that's interesting. Like, because I wanted to get out of Australia even at that stage. But then when you start thinking about, like, there's more. If you've just got those 3 things, like, you don't really have yourself set up for passing on your wisdom to someone else, like that generational freedom, the one that I keep bringing up to you. It's like having the children, even for your father, and being able to look after, you know, your parents and that. That is a form of freedom, and if you don't have anything to pass on to, like, it's a different life, and it's not for everybody. I understand, like, some people choose not to go that path, and you can have a great life without it, but it's another form of freedom to have the opportunity to pass on knowledge, to pass on physical things that you acquire, and to set up the next generation. And so, yeah, I encourage the men to, like, make a list, and maybe this is an activity someone can, what is freedom to you? And another big one that goes with this podcast is, like, the freedom of having brothers around you that you trust.
Certainly.
Like, wherever they are in the world, if you've got guys that you know you can trust, that if you hit a tight spot, you can go stay, you can get a hand, you know, you lose your business, they're going to share a bit of their audience or their mailing list, or, like, at some point in brotherhood, life gets really good. And the extreme of that is for my children. I had a revelation at this event. Like, my boy is going to be like these guys. He's going to work for some of them probably in the next 5 years. He's 7, but he's probably going to be doing some DMs or some video editing, or, you know, within the next 5 years. I already
put dibs on first hire.
He's already in there. He's already in there.
Yeah, he like, they just went and sold some. Jay's actually been the #1 customer for the lemonade, but
It's good lemonade.
It's good, strong lemonade.
But we had a jam session, like, just playing music in our lounge room. I put up my IG because I used to be super sensitive to criticism, where I would never put something like that up because I'm not world class at it. But it's been this journey of opening up. Then, so my whole family's having this jam session in the living room with Jay, and a bit of singing, some drums on a box, and we got 2 guitars, harmonica. My boy's like, well, yeah, we need to get good at this. We're gonna make some money with this, you know. We'll put the hat down, and
like, he wants to be outside of the train station, you know what I mean?
He wants to learn some chords now on the guitar, so he's inspired with that straight up. And then we've been playing around with some circus stuff, and in Player here, if you go to the restaurants down there, there's the dancers. Have you seen? There's always the dancers and mariachis and stuff, but there was also the break dancers. So you watch the break dancers, and they were, like, bouncing around doing handstands and whatnot, and he did a handstand straight after the breakdancers. Got a round of applause off the people at the restaurant after we watched him.
Nice.
So he's getting this feeling for, like, all right, getting good at this stuff can actually give me freedom, and that's cool. But then the big one was like, oh, my daughter's probably going to marry a guy like this. But that's her standard for a man. It's like who I hang around with. It's
good.
I get the chance to influence and support them towards, hey, what kind of man are you going to become? Yeah. But that's her normal. It's like, you need to be thinking about business, you need to be jacked, you need to be friendly, you know, you should be developing capacities, you have to be able to travel the world. And, you know, there's no guarantees, but that revelation to me of, like, I'm potentially setting up a much better situation for my daughter than what a lot of girls might be seeing with the relationships that their fathers have with other men, or not even getting to see that. Like, because they're homeschooled and they're with us, like, they were at the event for half the event, and they're having conversations with my wife, the guys are having conversations, like, it's super open of, this is us, this is how we live. And then some of the men are saying, like, yeah, now I want to have children. Like, even young dudes who, like, thought they never would.
Well, it's interesting, like, me and Sebastian were talking about this, and John was there, specifically about, like, having kids and a wife and, like, living a life. And the reason why I never really had kids, even though I was in a long-term relationship, there was, like, the juice has to be worth the squeeze to me for, like, everything. And it's just like every model of the so-called family life was just not that attractive. I was just like, is that what I'm gonna, like, turn my life into? It's just, like, you know, be the social norm and, you know, keep up with the Joneses of the neighborhood. And then I, you know, met Keegan, and I started meeting other people. I'm like, oh, there's other ways to do this, right? Like, there's other ways you can actually live your life. You can live it completely on your terms, and whatever freedom is for you, you can actually do that. So that's become a lot more attractive. So now when you say, okay, well, you know, have you found your wife yet? Not yet, but I'm getting closer to knowing exactly what that looks like, right? And taking nuggets from you, from everybody I meet, and kind of piecing the puzzle together, because I do want to have something like that, where I have a daughter, a son, where I can see that, like, that spiderweb effect of, like, oh, okay, because they see how I live and the people that I'm around and the way that they live, how they hold themselves, what they're always trying to build and grow, and how they treat people. Like, yeah, I want that to be, you know, how they just see the world, you know, because we learn as children not from what they tell us to do, but what they see. And so I wanted, now that it's been very attractive over the last couple of years, just being around you and seeing how you live. So thank you for that, for sure.
You're going to be a great father, man. Honestly,
I appreciate that.
It is a beautiful thing, and yeah, you can't know until you know.
Yeah.
Like I always feel a bit bad talking to people who don't have children about babies and stuff, because I was so tuned out to it. Even with having like a long gap between the last two and this latest one, like buddies have had babies and I didn't really, maybe it's just me, but when you know, then you'll know. Like once it happens, you'll be like, I get it. That why I was banging on about all this stuff.
Well, and I didn't want to feel like, now my life has to completely change. It's like, no, it should be enhanced, and I never saw that before. Because like everybody has this like mindset of like, oh, the children, good luck. They say like, oh, good luck, now like you'll be waking up in the middle of the night and not being able to do anything. Like you're just basically gonna have to live in your house and do nothing else.
No sleep, no money, all the freedom's gone. But it's not how it is.
Yeah.
Even my boy, like I wake up sometimes like 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock in the morning. Like I'm near when I want to get up anyway.
Yeah.
Like he's sleeping through. There's ways and means. There's techniques as well. Like babies don't cry because they just need to cry any more than you do.
Yeah.
Like
they need something, right?
They cry if something's missing. And we've got other guys in the network as well who just had babies, and they're reading these books and they're talking to their wives about things, and they're not just letting their babies cry. And then it's a lot easier process if you.
Well, because they're constantly testing and seeing the world. Like, if I cry, what do I get? So. You figure out like how to answer that, and then they will stop doing the thing if you don't give them the the reward for the thing. I don't know.
Well, it's not that they're looking for a reward. It's like they don't have that level of thinking. It's very literal. Everything's just instinctive for the new baby. Everything's fully instinctive. So the intent when they come out is to drink milk and to survive. Like we all have an intent that drives us towards survival.
Right.
The baby's intent for survival is pure. There's no manipulation in it. It's just, okay, I need milk now, like give me milk, or I'm feeling cold here, like pick me up. Like there's no sinister part to it. By the time you're 10, 11, like 7 maybe, like you start to maybe realize, depending on the influences you've had, like to manipulate or to twist things. But the baby's intent is pure.
Yeah.
And we all have that intent within us for our whole life. It's actually the key message of that Magical Child book that I was talking about, is that the intent for growing to the next level is always there. So biologically, your teeth come through. The 6-year-old molars, and then the 12-year-old molars, and then the wisdom teeth. So we go through these chapters of biological development. Everybody, that's undisputed. But there's a psychological drive that goes with that as well, psychological intent. By the time you're 14, you should be able to look after yourself. And that's why you have that instinct of like, I need to get away from my parents. And it's like biologically, the psychological chapters are built in like the biological chapters, but when you don't meet the needs of each chapter, and it kind of messes up what might happen after. So the baby from 0 to 7 is just mother, milk, learning what's safe. And so the first lesson for the baby, the first thing that my boy's studying, he's studying very diligently, is to understand the eyes. So he wants to lock in on the eyes and understand the face, because he needs to understand the mother's face so that when he goes somewhere, it's like he understands the mother's face. Because if it is dangerous, he really needs to know. But not everything should be dangerous as well. But so the mother needs to be chill enough that the baby's not stressed about everything.
Yeah, because they'll take that energy on.
So this is the first. He's mapping faces like Facebook and whatnot.
Yeah. We're learning.
That Face ID on.
Yeah, exactly.
I'll have to get that book for sure.
It's pretty cool, man. It brings another level to understanding.
Yeah, just awareness, right? Like a lot of people don't even want to take the time to even be aware of like the things that they don't know. There's like, this is what I heard, 15 years ago from some guy on the street. So let's take that to heart, and that's how I'm going to live my life for the rest of my life.
I'm going to raise my kids.
Yeah, this is how I'm going to raise my kids, because this is what I saw on Oprah.
TV,
yeah.
The pop culture view of children is not cool. Like, there's a lot of hotels now that don't allow children, and like what you see on cartoons and whatnot, like babies are always just crying for no reason, and like, children are meant to be annoying, but it's really doesn't have to be that way. Like,
well, I think it comes back down to like you see a lot of people that like basically feel the kid as a burden. So like, because you're a burden, or my life, I don't feel control or freedom in my life. So when I come home and I want to just relax or whatever it may be, you can't take my energy from me. So here's an iPad. You know what I mean? And then they just like, that's all. They don't actually want to solve the problem. It's just here's a little Band-Aid.
Well, it's the opposite of a problem though, man. Like the child will show you pure joy.
That's what I mean. But they don't know. But they don't know because they, and society might have mess them up too, where they're like, well, I feel like I have to, you know, do all these things to impress everybody else. So now I'm doing stuff I don't even like, so I can buy things to impress people I don't like. You know, you're like,
100%.
it's a terrible system.
It's a cycle, yeah.
But I don't know, I saw that, like, did you kind of have that feeling too, like that you were just a little off? Like ever since you were like, I don't know, ever since I could remember, I was like, I don't belong. I don't fit in. Like, I don't want to live like everybody else is like accepting the way that life is. Did you have that feeling?
I think my dad made it pretty clear to me when I was younger that we were different.
Yeah,
that
okay.
we thought differently. We had different ideas. We had different maybe beliefs about the world, different morals, different ways of seeing things.
So he kind of implanted that.
Yeah, he kind of made it clear. Probably, you know, not to say that I still hold those same beliefs, but he said, you know, yeah, we think differently to other people. How they choose to live their life is different to how we choose to live our life.
Okay. So you actually, like, did your father, like, kind of express it? Or it was just like...
I'm trying to think about it now.
Yeah.
We're a bit further along in the journey. It felt a little bit different because my father was a rugby league coach.
Yeah.
And so he didn't work 9 to 5. He was working on weekends. He was in the newspaper, on the TV and stuff sometimes. So it felt like our family was a bit different and my parents were a bit different. But I don't think in terms of like family values or what was expected of me, like there wasn't really anything. I don't think that was taught. It was just learned by watching. Like winning means everything because that was my father's. You know, that's what I saw. I was the younger brother. I was competing against my brother from my earliest memories. So I think like that message was there, but not so much of that. The society trap kind of thing was something that I could do differently.
But there was at least, I mean, I guess the thread is at least, like, even my father was, you know, a self-employed, like, salesman. Yeah. So he didn't have, like, a 9 to 5. Yeah. So, like, I don't know if that was...
Yeah, we all grew up outside of the 9
to 5. My mom had it, but I was just like, oh, I definitely don't want to live like my mom, you know what I mean? Yeah. But, no, I love my mom. But I'm, like, I couldn't just go trade my time for money. So I'm trying to think, like, if that was... I've always had this, like, thought, I'm like, is it something that we were born with, or is it something that, like, because of the environment that, I guess, swayed us that way? But I genuinely believe that, like, I was born this way. Like, ever since I can remember, I just knew I was like, I'm a little bit different. My grandma told me, like, a couple years ago, she was like, yeah, we thought you were a mute until, like, you were 9 or 10 years old. Like, you spoke every now and then, but, like, you didn't really speak. But you were, like, just very, like, engaged in everything else, like what everybody was doing, how everybody was acting, and you just, like, were just watching how the world was. And I remember this. I didn't talk, but I do remember being, like, very observant and aware of, like, how people spoke, and then, like, their actions were usually not, like, congruent with that. So I'm just like, huh, is the world, like, full of shit? You know what I mean? Like, and I kind of always had that from, like, a very young age. So I don't know if it was, like, just naturally in me or not. So I'm always curious about that.
I had the same feeling, but I don't know if, like, I don't think it was a family thing as much. Like, I had that feeling of, like, people wouldn't be living like this if they were thinking about it or if they could choose. But it's I wonder about it with zoo animals, right?
A zoo animal, okay.
Like, does a lion know, like, this is not it? Like, I get it, I'm eating, but this is not it. Like, do they know or do they not know? Do they have that feeling? Is that the feeling? And do we all kind of have that feeling of, like, we're meant to be... They say we're people of the garden. My boy's name's Eden. And it's like the idea that this is our garden to tend to is something that really resonates strongly with me. And I mean, thinking about, like, coming into the birth, and so the name sat well. But, like, is that what we're meant to... We're not meant to necessarily be people of the city or people of the wild jungle. That we're meant to have this other environment, and if we're not in it, then we feel like something's missing.
And that's where I think sometimes of, like, is that how everybody feels? Or is that just a sliver?
Yeah.
Right? Because, like, the 80-20 rule. I've went through this hypothesis of, I think there's, like, 20% of people that were kind of born with the certain DNA, genetic makeup, whatever it may be, that has this, like, capacity to think and to be self-aware. And some, I don't necessarily believe that they might even have that same spectrum of awareness, per se. It's even available to them. And the angriest are people, not angriest, but at least, like, the ones that are maybe of that 20% and then are put into the system and they're like, this is hell, right? Like, because some people, like, they're perfectly fine in the system. I could I don't know. That would be like the lion, right?
I think it's innate in all of us, but
You think?
it's either suppressed or allowed to express itself. And I think if maybe those early flames are fanned, they can't be put out. But if they're suppressed early enough, maybe, yeah. Because I wonder how some people go and just hop in line and wait.
But yeah, then if they're self-medicating with
Right.
booze, alcohol, horn hookers, whatever, then are they really like? Statistically, it's not like they're content with that. They just settle for it and they don't know. And all the people buying, like a good counter argument is how many people have bought a course that's like get rich quick,
Right.
crypto or drop shipping or whatever it is. Like there's so many of these products that are surface level solutions of like, I made shitload of money with this, you can make money with it too, but then the base layer of who you are as a person and how you deal with adversity and such is not in place. So you're learning a technique on a mechanical level, but on a spiritual or energetic level, like you have no chance. Guys are buying this stuff. They're buying
For
crypto.
sure.
Like this, you're
There's
gonna
a
see a
desire,
pump again.
yeah.
Well, there's a desire I've been thinking on this thought for the last like couple weeks too, because I'm always like, okay, how can I like build a model, like a framework of like how to explain what we all desire, and I think like if you look at it from like a pyramid, right, we all need like control, we need creativity to work on something, to build something, right, and then we need community. But I think for me, I went top down, but I think bottom up is the way that we should be doing it, because so like I went purely for control. I didn't worry about creativity, I didn't worry about community, didn't worry about any of that shit. I just needed control. So then once I got control, I like, okay, now I have some time to work on some things that make me feel creative and work towards something. And then now I'm able to connect with the community that I like and whatever. So it was hard, right? That was very difficult. But I think if you go bottom up, like you build and find the community that like you resonate with, then you're all going to be creating something that's worthwhile, and you're going to have people that will help you and lift you and bring you up, and that will help you in turn feel in control. So like that's what I've been just kind of resonating on. It's like the community is everything, and that's why you have to kind of be able to speak truly and freely about who you are, and not like just fall into because this is what society's telling you have to live. The great thing about obviously the internet now is like if you just speak authentically, like you're gonna repel a lot of people, right? But you're also gonna attract some, right? So yeah, that's what I've been just pondering on, I think.
Yeah, you see the shift. The community, people are looking for community. Like it's been the level, and to a large extent, villages aren't what they used to be. Where you used to grow up with your cousins and your uncles and everyone. So we're naturally gonna look for community, but a lot of that has been found in different niches.
Well, because I think the whole Western society outlook flipped to top down, right? Like it went, no, you need to have,
Look after yourself.
you got to look after yourself, right? But it needs to be bottom up, and then that's obviously how you build a community. But I think just like the law of large numbers, it's just like we can't handle that much. Like for instance, even in this building or in a normal subdivision or whatever it may be, like. I don't know any of those people, like I might wave to them or anything like that, but you actually don't really care too much about somebody that you don't really know. But like I was saying, if John was smoking crack and doing something crazy, I'd be like, well, we need to help John. Like John needs to stop doing crack. We need to figure out what's going on. And, you know what I mean? And we need to get to the root cause of it. But like if it's just, Jim Smith down the road, hey, you hear Jim's doing crack? You know what I mean? Like that's, you don't really care too much. So I don't know.
It's definitely been lost, or for the most part at a local level. But yeah, you're so true. If you pick up your phone and just start to express yourself authentically on video, through writing, all of a sudden, like you start connecting with incredible people. Like that's how me and Keegs connected. Keegs was we were both expressing ourselves authentically online, sharing ideas of what we thought about the world, and then all of a sudden, Yeah, it's probably the same with you guys.
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah,
For sure. I think the scariest people, like we think that we're going to be alone. Like that's the scariest thought I think humans have is like, well, I'm going to be exiled from the community. That's deep rooted, right? Like if I speak against whatever my community is, my status will lower and I'll be exiled and I'll be by myself and I'll be alone. Beautiful thing is like, well, that actually probably won't happen, but nobody's actually going to kill you now. Like this back in the day, they would actually like, they'd be like, oh, this fucking guy's creep. Dude, let's get him out. Let's kill him. Don't do anything weird. Don't be a weirdo, but
Yeah, exile back in the day was
a bit different.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Yeah. What else you guys got going on? What you're saying? You're going down to Buenos Aires. When are you going back down?
I'm just up here for 2 more weeks.
Two more weeks.
Came to spend some time with Keegs, go to that event, train together, talk about some ideas, working on some new stuff for Uncommon Success.
Yeah. So Uncommon, he said you were going to help him with a little new funnel you're working on.
Yeah, Jay's been working his magic, put some words together.
Yeah.
Working on some sales copy for a new.
Putting some words together.
Pretty exciting. Yeah, it's so crazy when you build these skills. Like Jay's been doing it for 10 years that he doesn't necessarily have that resistance that a lot of guys have, but it's skills. And if you're open to taking on new skills, then you can do it. And it's just a question of how long it's going to take.
Yeah.
And that's the thing that I think gets missed with a lot of the get rich quick online stuff. I message back to people who are DMing me saying, like, can I edit your reels for you, or let me do a deal with your marketing and I'll take 20%, I want to make it, all that stuff. And you look and they don't have a life. Like there's nothing to be able to trust that person.
Right.
Like they're not showing anything about who they are, what they're doing.
Right.
And so they're trying to succeed through this tiny little thread, the eye of a needle, that someone's going to magically or by mistake give me some money to do something. Where if you build your base of an excellent life and you just keep getting better and better, you're great at lots of different things. You should be really good at something in sport. You might choose to be good at something in music, in art. You read books, you develop in yourself.
Yeah.
It's going to be easy for someone's going to give you an opportunity. Like that's the thing for my son that I know, because he's developing himself in various ways just by default. Like there's lots of languages being spoken around him. Everyone speaks multiple languages in my network just about. Like, so many guys from other backgrounds, and it's like if you engage the skill development thing, it's going to solve itself. And Jay's got the ability to put these words on a page in such a way that we want to open up to bring more people to the villages. We've got this location in Montenegro. This now can sleep 30. We've got Vanuatu, the 5 beachfront cabins are built. New place in Bali next to the Bali Time Chamber. So
Are these
we need
more,
to bring some more.
are these more for events? These aren't like long term.
You can stay. Yeah, guys are staying there long term.
Yeah?
There's guys living in there. Like the dream is that, because when I was 23, I left the sort of standard life and came to Latin America, traveled down to Chile. I wanted the guys to get that experience of move out of their home environment, be in a positive environment, develop themselves, go and see other cultures. And so, I'm giving men that opportunity. We do events, but it's also a chance to go live somewhere else around people who are wanting to hold themselves to higher standards, being challenged.
Are you still like mainly targeting coaches in that sense, or
It's mostly men who want to have businesses.
entrepreneurs?
Yeah. But if you already got money and you don't really need a business, then it's okay too. It's really, the thing I really want is men that value family and value developing themselves. That's probably what's most important. For a while, it was personal trainers and that sort of stuff, and then it was like really like, let's make money, let's do business. But the further we go with it, the more I realize, like, if you're holistically developing yourself, you'll work it out with the money.
Right.
It's the fear of the new thing that makes it so difficult, because it's a relatively simple mechanical process. Like everyone's used to spending money, so all you need to do is have something coherent that allows people to buy from you, and you'll be okay. You'll be able to make a few grand a month, and that means you got your ticket out. But to get to that point, you have to go through all these terror barriers of, what if someone comments on my post, hey, you're a dickhead, or what if no one watches this thing, or and I've been through all that, and we go through it, and it's a real thing to get socially criticized.
It's very important. Like, it's probably the thing that like changed my life is when I was thrown out the door-to-door sales, and like feeling like you said, kind of maybe a caged animal, not knowing what like how the world really is, and then like going and thinking a certain way, and then all of a sudden being like, oh, the only way I can actually put food on my table, put a roof over my head, is I got to figure out a way to talk to these people and provide something that is of value to this other individual. And yeah, not everybody's gonna like what you have to say, and some of them aren't gonna be that pleasant to you, right? But you don't die, you know, and you gain a lot of skills, you gain a lot of confidence, some courage, some capabilities, and like then you just start skill stacking, and that's what changed my life for sure, 100%.
Because most men are coin operated. If you don't put the coin in, they won't do anything. So if you put the coin in, they'll pick up the rubbish, they'll clean the toilet, no matter whatever it is. But if there's no coin going in, they won't learn a language, they won't learn a skill. And the thing to have your own business is you have to deal with not having the income for a period of time if you want to have the income. And you have to face, maybe you knock on, at the start with, maybe you knock on $100 to get some money, and then you knock on $98 to get some money, and then it's 95, and gradually the ratio improves.
For sure.
Because we're conditioned to think I'm worth X amount per hour. If you're not making that X per hour, if you make $1,000 in your own business, it's like making $100,000 working for someone else. Because that $1,000 that you made in your own business, you can duplicate that. You can figure out, well, so what did I do right there, and how do I continue to do that? But people just think money's money, but it's really not.
And then like on top of it, when you're doing it for yourself, every time you do like a good job for somebody else, like you literally created another person that trusts, likes you, and knows that you can provide something of value to them, and like that network effect.
It's compounding.
It's compounding, right? And John and I were talking about this because you know he just graduated from college less than a year ago, and you know he's like sometimes like a normal human, like maybe comparing himself to like maybe where some of his friends are, like they're working a job and maybe they're making X. But then he like looked back on all like the connections that he's made over the last year, and like all the opportunities that he's created, all the skills and value that he's been able to learn, and like that's really like it's an invaluable thing. Like that's way more valuable than like, oh, this guy's been an engineer for the last year, not really providing any value, but because he had a degree, he's doing just X, Y, and Z, and now he's making whatever, you know. So it's like it's hard to extrapolate that out because we've been so programmed to believe that like, oh, if your time is not getting paid, you know, X amount of dollars per hour, you don't need to do it. Like it's like, well, is that really like? Yeah. I don't know.
It's no time is money.
No.
It's set up the life that you love.
Yeah.
There's so many people's definition of success is get the money. I want to be able to do whatever I want. But if you don't know what you would do at that time, then you're probably not going to get there. And if you do get there, it might be the worst thing that happens to you.
Right.
You got to have a plan for it. What do? You got more freedom than most men. You're constantly getting yourself around people who you like to be around. You got your boxing routine. You know what you're going after outside of the money, so your life is still good. Where I ask men all the time, what would you do if you didn't have to go to work? And they have no answer. What would you do if you had $10 million and you had to spend it? And they have no answer. And it's not like...
Oh, if I was in this position and I was like 25, I mean, I'd be like just a complete degenerate. You know what I mean? And I didn't even drink or anything, but like that clear objective was what allowed me to gain all those skills, right? And whatever your objective may be, like for me, I didn't know what it was. The only thing that I knew was like I just wanted to have control over my life, and that was a clear enough objective that like every other decision that I made needed to be in alignment with that goal, and it was a very clear objective. So okay, well, let's work towards that.
Yeah.
So
we're goal-seeking organisms.
100%. So now it's just like, okay, when people are like, oh, money's not important. It's like, no, money's very important, but it's not there's next problems to solve after that, and but it 100% is very important, and you need to solve that because that number's like, I never tell people what that number should be. No. You know what I mean? Like your number is completely different than anybody else's number. You live however you want, and hopefully if you're an evolving individual, that number will change. Like 15 years ago, I'll sit and I'll eat crackers and sardines and whatever, and be perfectly fine. And I could probably still do that today. It wouldn't be that big of a deal because you've done it, and you're like, all right, I lived. It'll be okay, So that's just part of the journey. And I think if you don't at least go through that, so even though Jay's 24, but you've been doing it for so long, you at least have a better awareness of yourself. Because if you just follow the program of like what everybody else is telling you what you should do, you never really actually even gain that like sense of how do I actually want my day to look like? What do I want my time to be spent with? Who do I want to be around, right? Like, what is my life actually here? Because I've been giving all my energy to somebody else's dream or time, and then by the time I get home, I'm tired. I'm just gonna, drown out my whatever day with
A few beers and football.
Yeah, a few beers and football, and like you never actually thought about anything. It's what is it, the most men live lives of quiet desperation. It's like, and they don't want to have that feeling. I think that's why most people do drink or do these drugs, is because like they have this like voice in the back of their head saying like, you probably shouldn't be doing that. Fuck you. I need to quiet you down. Don't tell me I could be more. Get the fuck out of there. So I don't know. It's a process that I always felt. So we got some motorcycles ripping. So
Probably doesn't pick it up on these mics, but
yeah.
Yeah, I think back to what you were saying before, Keegs, I think that's like a cool thing about what you're creating, is that so many of the offers out there, these surface level offers around how to quickly make money, don't address the number one thing that dictates your ability to make money, which is who you are, your character, your ability. And so, online business or business in general is really like an opportunity for you to become the authority or the creator of your life. And so if you don't take on that real journey, it doesn't matter if you come up with the best cold DM strategy to get a 20% deal.
Right.
Like, because if you don't become the sort of person who can do it, and I think that's why what Keegan's creating is so valuable, because he's creating a space, a community, villages, where there's actually a place for men to go and develop that.
For sure.
Rather than 100 people buy the course, one or two figure it out by accident.
Right. Yeah. No. And I think the important thing to understand though is like I've been in the same mindset of like, oh, this stuff is so good. Like, why are people like taking this? But like, I was talking to Nick Sanatasasso, and he mentioned like, and it was very true. It's like at different stages of our life, we're at different levels of consciousness.
Yeah.
So unfortunately, even though we know what is going to make our lives feel better, what's actually going to change that person's life, sometimes you just have to like show a Ferrari, because they're like, oh, okay, cool. And then, it's the old saying of like, sell them what they want and then give them what they need, on the back end. So that's what I've been trying to do more. Like, it's tough too, because like you're like, oh, I don't want to be a douche, and I don't want to but like, unfortunately, people are at different levels of consciousness, and if I need to wake somebody up, you won't even get their attention if you're just like, if I'm trying to educate you the whole time, you're only going to talk to a very small sliver of population.
You're going to meet them where they're at. And me and Keegs been talking about this week, writing this sales letter, because there's so much depth to the ideas that we want to invite people into. But we've got 30 seconds from Facebook ad to get their credit card out.
Right.
And we just got to go with one simple, clear message. And
exactly.
For sure, sometimes the Ferrari is the best way to get an 18-year-old guy to fucking click on an ad, and
Sometimes if you want your kid to eat broccoli, you got to put a little cheese on it first. But it's like, that's what a funnel is, right? It's like, okay, well, we need to get people in the funnel. And obviously some people are going to move out of the funnel as they go down. But if you have a smooth process of like, okay, what's step number one that most people want and desire? And it's a simple 1, 2, 3, here you get it. Okay, that was cool. What else can I learn from, that was interesting. Let me get a little win. So, yeah. I like the process. You're a processes guy. You actually know how to get the results. You're very good at like organizing it step by step. So I'm excited to see what you and Jay work together.
Lay out like I was thinking about this. You get lay out students from every year. Like there's like 3, 4, 5 guys every year who become leaders in their thing. Whether it's going back to coaching the world champion rugby players, and then each year after that, there's like first year body by Brando in Sydney. Got 4 gyms now in the heart of Sydney. Just got married at 32, and he lives an hour away from his 4 gyms. Like he's living the dream. And then the next year there's Tim Frey, who has the best gym in Perth, but then launched his Success School, which did a $750,000 launch. And then the next year, like in every year, you think about like there's some bigger than others, bigger years than others, but there's something going on which is good, and that's what I'm wanting to break down, because I know like the guys at the workshop are like at this intensive are like, yeah, like I'm a different man. Like this is something I really needed to experience. And even before they come to the event, like the online stuff is super intense now. Like we have a lot of calls, we have a lot of interaction, and it's very different to anything I've run in the past.
And you have you have a bigger touch to like the general public than like I definitely. I mean, it's tough because like I sometimes when you hit a certain level of success, you can kind of isolate yourself a little bit. So like I sometimes not forget, but like I'm out of touch a little bit of like I have to remember who I was or what I was seeking at that time, because life has been very good for a number of years, and it's hard for me to remember how to communicate to that person. Like, 'cause I'm always I might be communicating to like a year or 2 year ago me, but like to talk to the 15-year ago me or 18-year-old me is sometimes harder to get to. So like, what are you seeing now when you're talking to like more the general public,
Yeah, there's so much conditioning around, there's just so much fear, so much anxiety, that if you can create a safe space, it sounds like stuff that I wouldn't have said before, but it's true. And I think I'm seeing it through like my boy. Like my boy has pure consciousness. He's not socially engineered into his way of being, and you see when he smiles, like there's just pure light in that smile that you can't deny. That being is in bliss. Like this is something really beautiful. And even my boy at 7, the enthusiasm and energy that he attacks when he's fixing his drone, or like his car broke. I'm like, man, his car broke. I wasted that money. He's so excited to fix the car.
Nice.
He's taking the car apart. He's soldering something. It was the best day ever when his car broke. And you see that joy pouring out. And to me, that's the answer. That's like, we can talk about religion and we can talk about life philosophies, but this is just pure truth where you're seeing exactly what these beings are
without judgment.
And consciousness that you're talking about, where that's how we are more naturally, and then we get layered this conditioning stuff on top with all the arguments our parents had and what the school teacher said to us and the movies we watched and all this stuff. And I found like if you can create a safe space where the man has no fear that if no one watches the reel or if no one takes the offer, that they feel like they've still got a safe space to go to where they're going to be fine, they're going to have respect, and then their willingness to take risks is so much higher. And if you can take risks, then everything's fine. Like that's why the billionaires, they go bankrupt and like, whatever. Because they know it's so easy to make money. If you're a billionaire, you don't get to be a billionaire without knowing you can always make money.
For sure.
So all the fear's gone at that point.
Well, and like Tristan and Andrew talk about a lot, because if you have like a brother that's like so ride or die for you no matter what, like, and there's no judgment of like, hey, we're trying something crazy out, we're doing something wild and it didn't work out, it's like, all right, well, I still get to go home and hang out with my boy and like eat some chicken or something. Like, what's the worst that can happen? There's no judgment of trying something. And that's what like the fear of failure is usually, because it's a fear of like being judged by somebody else, when it's like, no, like the people that I want around and they want me around, like, well, they want me to gain skills, they want me to get better, so there's no other option other than take action, right? Like,
whatever happens in the open market, like it doesn't matter so much. And that's the idea with the villages as well, is to create that other safe location where it's like, worst case, I'm going to go to Vanuatu where there's a herd of cattle, there's a gym, there's coconut trees, there's fish, and it like you can live, like food literally grows on trees. Money doesn't grow on trees, but food does. And
food's pretty important, yeah.
So if I can take that away as well, like then guys can take more risks. And the thing is with entrepreneurship is, it's baseball, you only get a certain amount of at-bats, right? And you strike out enough times, no one gives you an at-bat anymore. Like you have to go to the other team and the other team. But in entrepreneurship, you can stink so bad and you can strike out every day for 10 years. But then when you learn to hit home runs, you hit 50 home runs in a day and your life changes. Yeah. So it doesn't really matter how long it takes if you're getting after the skill development. But it is that consciousness thing I want to circle back to quickly, because that's the big thing with my boy, my new boy, and even like my other children, is like the consciousness you can shift it. You can choose to shift consciousness, and that's part of the magical child. There's other work by David Hawkins, my mentor, also introduced me to the levels of human consciousness. It's a scale from 0 to 1,000, and it's really, really valuable to see. It's something that everyone should know about, but it's not really spoken about in normal education. So much stuff today is around shame and fear, and all the marketing is at that level. where anyone who you really look up to or who's written about in history, they were operating at joy and grace, and they were able to operate on a different level from the heart. And you can see that from children, that they already have that. That's why in so many religious texts they always talk about having the heart of a child and learning from the children and this kind of stuff. So this internal journey is not being spoken about in entrepreneurship. There's three things that I think the internal journey that we should work on. The consciousness is the third one, of like being able to like go after that. There's techniques, and you can read about it, you can learn about it. It's been written about and taught in yoga, in all the ancient traditions in the Bible. You can learn about this stuff, and it wasn't even on the radar for me. Like I built businesses, but I was miserable. I made all the money that I wanted. 2021, I had time, money, geographical freedom, but I was miserable. And I realized there's something else. And this is one of the big other things that there are. The other one is to build stuff. Whether you're building physical stuff, building skills, like if someone's willing to build, they're going to be fine. If their consciousness is going up, like they feel literally more joyful in their life, and they're able to enjoy. And I ask people this now, like, when do you feel joy? When have you felt most joy? People who've taken drugs are like, compare your life to when you've been on MDMA or something. And they're like giving me a number of where they're at with it. It's a fun thing to play around with it. And we played around with that at the event of like, okay, we're going to juggle, we're going to do this thing. Now do it joyfully. And like you see shifts in people, and then you see creativity, and you see new learning, and you see openness that children have.
Yeah.
And that tells me that it's truth. It's not just a wild idea. And then you need to be able to control your attention. So there's a war for attention.
Yeah, for sure.
There's weapons of mass distraction being deployed against us, and if you can't get a hold of your attention, then you're not going to get there, no matter how good the external environment is. If you create the environment, like we want to create that environment around ourselves, we want to have accountable action, we want to get new knowledge, all that stuff, but can you put your attention on the environment that you want to put your attention on, or is it, how much of it is being drained away?
Well, and you become the actual player of the chess game, right? Versus like, no, I'm just like here and people are moving me around because they got my attention. They told me I needed this thing and I needed to feel this certain way. Now I'm basically getting moved by other people's things, for sure.
You're creating now. I love this. That it's you can consume as much as you want, but when you create, that's the real dopamine. That's the real joy. Like this is the fun, and anyone watching this, like. Make your podcast. It's 100%. Cool if you watch this, and I hope you got a good idea out of it, and you can tell us if you got some inspiration. Content is important, and choosing carefully, is the person that I'm consuming the content of living the life that I want, or are they feeding me fear? Are they feeding me, this lower consciousness?
Yeah, I mean, I consumed a lot to open my consciousness up, right? So it's like, it's nothing wrong with consuming, but consuming with intent, intent to, like, what we all need, right? We need higher consciousness, right? We need control, we need the community, we need skills, we need capabilities, all these things. So yeah, I mean, I think that's a good way to end it. Jay, you have anything else to say?
Yeah, no, I just agree.
I agree, man.
Attention's the currency of life.
For sure.
Everywhere we put that attention, we'll expand.
For sure. Put your attention on the things that matter to you and the people you love, and life will be good. So thanks for joining us, brother. Appreciate you.
Thank you, brother.
Hey, pleasure, bro.
Good stuff.
Peace.